Hello everyone, welcome back to LARP. It is Halloween, so today we're going to get ready, and I'm going to talk to you about the character that I'm dressing up as this year. I'm with a clean face, it just makes the makeup go on smoother, so make sure you do that. And this year I am going to be doing my makeup as Mara. Mara is a half-fae that I played at Legacies, and I actually premiered her a year ago this month. And she survived exactly 3 months before she was killed. Now, her death was not entirely undeserved. She had kind of turned on the whole town. But part of what I created Mara for was to really ask the town and ask the people of of Alba, which is the country that the town is based in, to really explore some of their own feelings and prejudices about necromancy, Dampari, and kind of spooky-looking characters in general. So I didn't go in planning for her to be or do any of the things that she ended up being or doing. And it was, I think, as much of a shock to me, to be honest, as anyone else that she ended up where she did. Because I really went in with this very wholesome but creepy sort of character. She was very, very creepy looking, but very sweet. And just kind of like, Mara was a genuinely good person. She wanted to be accepted. She wanted to make friends. She wanted to do the right thing. And it wasn't always easy in a town where necromancy was illegal and she was a naturally born necromancer. So that became an ongoing point of contention. I think I'm probably not framed here, so if the first part of this video is like me sitting to the side, I apologize for that. I hope I just fixed that. So I'm just using a water-based white Mayron Paradise cake. I tend to go with these ones a lot, or my other kind of go-to brand. I don't know if I have one handy, actually. I think everything I'm using today is Mayron. Is the Krylon. So. But yeah, so I'm just using this white water-based, or water-activated makeup to do the bottom half of my face. And you'll see why we're only doing the bottom half in a couple of minutes here. So yeah, Samara was this kind of spooky half-fae. I actually introduced her in October of last year as like a Halloween kind of, oh look, my spooky Halloween character, ha ha ha. So she was Winter Court, and she was the daughter of an Anku. And an Anku is a Irish, from Irish folklore, a fae sort of spirit that guides the dead to the afterlife. And in some stories it's specifically dead fae, and in other, where, you know, in stories where fae can actually die, and in others it's just dead in general. So Mara came from a strangely loving family. She had, her father was Anku, and her mother was human. And her father fell pretty severely in love with her mother. And they raised their child together for a long time until her mother passed away. And then her dad was never really the same after that. It messed him up pretty bad. So he went back to the Fae realm to kind of try and forget his mortal family that he had lost, or at least his wife that he had lost. And so Mara was left alone, and so she was raised in part by her aunt, but she never really, after her father left, she never really felt a part of anything. So she decided to leave eventually. Sorry, just a sec, my computer is trying to shut down on me, so I should close it. So she decided to leave and go and kind of make her own way in the world. So off she goes to the country of Alba, where she is distraught to find out that her magic is illegal, that necromancy of any kind is illegal, and that she's been raising the dead since she was like 2 or 3. She's just, it was just an innate ability for her. It wasn't ever hostile or with any intent to do harm. And she didn't practice like high necromancy. She could only create mindless undead, all of whom could be fixed and put back in their bodies and made human again. Which is what she used to use her magic for until she came to Alba and found out she wasn't allowed to. So I've just got another Paradise paint, and I'm doing the top half of my face in black. So she kind of just had to stop, raising the dead, which for her was actually a pretty physically painful situation. She wasn't doing it out of any, as I said, any hostility or desire to do harm. For her, it was entirely about the fact that when that energy became pent up, she actually experienced physical pain. So she stayed in Alba for a while before she decided to go and explore the Wastelands. And the Wastelands border the territory where most of the towns in-game are. And so I had her living out there kind of just before I brought her into game. That was where her backstory kind of, not ended, but where she was going to be brought into the game world. And so that was the decision we made. That's where she would come into game. And so the town was at a place called Rose Hill, just on the borders, just inside the borders of the Waste. Rose Hill is one of the towns that is in the near wastes, and therefore relatively safe to traverse to. The further out into the waste you get in our game, the more... I just painted my eyeball, don't do that, guys. So the further out into the waste you get, the more iffy magic gets, and the weirder things start to behave. The creatures are different quite often. Just everything gets bigger and meaner. It's kind of like, if you've seen The Princess Bride, the swamp in The Princess Bride is kind of, reminds me a little bit of how we perceive some of the stuff in the waste. What have I done? Oh no, this is bad. I was trying to fix my hair, and I made it worse. Hurrah! Okay. So, rodents of unusual size, that's very much like a waste monster, or something that you would expect to see in the wastes. Waste rabbits are something that people joke about, but it's like that joking with like the nervous laughter and a touch of fear. You don't mess with waste rabbits kind of thing. So the wastes are not a nice place, and they get less nice the further out you get. They get more questionable as a choice of living arrangement the further out you get. So now I'm just painting my neck. I'm actually going to have to fix this little smudge here. I'm not sure even how that happened. Probably the flowers But now I'm just painting the neck, and this actually goes kind of almost all the way down. And I do a lot of this bulk painting first because there's a lot of fine detail in this character. Not a lot of, but there's some fine detail in this character, and I want to be done with this big brush before I get into it. So, Mara was living in the Waste. She had kind of made deals with some of the local tribes that lived there, because there are people in the Waste. They tend to be kind of stranger folks. Not necessarily types of people that you would initially think to hang out with. They're the weirdos of the, world. So Mara has been living with these people for a couple of years by the time I actually brought her into game. Her backstory had her staying with them for probably about 2 years. And she was really finding her place among these people. She felt like, they didn't damn her for being weird, because everybody in the Waste is weird. And they didn't damn her for her necromancy because it was useful in the Waste. There's a lot of undead. There's a lot being able to deal with that made her kind of popular in the Waste. And for the first time in her life, she really felt kind of at home. And then the storyline I brought her into, we were being hassled by a lich. And so the lich, we were getting a lot of kind of tribal runoff, as it were. Tribes escaping the Wastes to come to get away from the undead that were kind of taking over everything. So, unfortunately for Mara, the undead problem was more than even she could handle. She was pretty good with undead, so she decided, fine, I will go into this town that people are heading to, and I will see about temporarily staying in Alba, but I'm gonna go back to the Waste. That was her whole plan. Was always, eventually the Waste is where I've made my home. That's where I'm gonna go back to. So this is my base for Mara. So I did the black, white, black, and we're gonna go in and... Alright, so I've added my contacts because I forgot to add them before, and I knew that it was going to be a big fuss because I forgot to add them before. So now we're going to go into some of the finishing details for this character. We've got our base on, and now I'm going to show you kind of some of the things I did to make her pop and stand out and just be a little more realistic. One thing that I didn't do with this character at all is contour. And normally with my full face paints, I do like to contour. Anyone who does full face LARP makeup and has put some time and research into it, or has any sort of education on full face makeup, is going to tell you that contouring is going to create a more realistic face. In the case of Mara, though, because she's supposed to be kind of surreal to look at, and she's not supposed to look real. That's kind of the point. She's supposed to look kind of inhuman and unnatural. So making her this like bright, unnaturally smooth color was part of what I did to create that illusion. So what I'm doing right now, and I probably should have showed you before I started, the one thing that I did do, because her hair is white, and I don't have the wig right now, so you're gonna have to imagine it. Please suspend your disbelief. But what I am doing now is I'm going in with white eyeshadow, and I am just patting in a little bit of white shadow into my brows to match them to what the wig is going to be, which is the white. And this is not as clean a job as I have done in the past, but I probably will go in and touch up here in a sec. I just really want to get it on those hairs to because, like, that's one of my biggest issues, I think, with people who do, like, a drow or something where the skin is all black, is that a lot of the times they don't bother matching their eyebrows to their hair, and they just have this, like, black blob, and you tend to lose a lot of expression, right? So there's a tip for you guys if you are doing like dark face makeup. Make sure you put your eyebrows back on. So this is a really bad example. This is not sticking as well as I would have liked it to. I might actually just pat on the tiniest bit of white paint to give it something to stick to. Let's see if that helps. It might not. It might make it worse. Let's see if we can make this worse today, guys. So, yeah, Samara comes to this town, and she's not, like I said, planning on staying long, but, you know, she may as well try and make some friends while she's there. So she's friendly, she's trying to help out. She scares the living daylights out of a couple of people who she initially encounters in the woods. And it's only the fact that she's super friendly when she talks, and is, like, chatting them up, and not at all terrifying in her demeanor, that prevents people from just outright stabbing her face. Because when she first emerges from the woods, they've just been attacked by undead, and they're a little spooked. So the timing was really good. We actually timed it with the plot team so that she would come down just as they were finishing up this combat, because it was a live entrance, and meet up with the people heading to the tavern. And so they didn't really, she was wearing a hood, and they couldn't really see her properly. So initially, there wasn't really any fear of her, and then they get into the light of the tavern, and, like, major credit to my friend Hex, who plays this kind of cowardly character named Joaquin. And Joaquin about near jumps 10 feet when he sees Mara, and, like, flies in the opposite direction when he sees her in the light. So I'm going in with some details now, and one of the details that I really enhanced on her was that she had almost, like, feathery shapes on, creating almost like a mask, I guess would be the best way of putting it. And she did actually also wear a mask, but this was part of her natural, like, this is what her face looks like. And I did kind of improve on these shapes each game. I came in with them very kind of brush strokey and not really making much sense visually. And then as I kind of got more of a feel for the character and realized I did really want them to be quite feathery, they did smooth out and become more of an actual feather shape. And I really kind of got a feel for how I wanted to do them. Like, I'm taking a while with this, but when I did Mara for game, quite often I could finish her in a very short period of time and have her makeup ready to go relatively quickly. Like, I got pretty quick at creating my character. Actually, in the case of most of my characters, you know, I play a half dragon, and I wear scaled prosthetics and then scale the rest of her face when I do her full makeup, and I can still do her in, like, a reasonably quick period of time. I like to be able to get into games, so I don't want to miss anything because I'm fighting with my makeup. So that's Mara's little feathery face. And then the last sort of thing that I used to do for her was I would draw a little line down into her abyss neck. And that was really it for Mara. Her makeup was not hugely complex but it was striking. That was more what I was going for with Mara. And then I would quite often go and kind of repeat some of those feathery shapes along the edges of this neck piece, which is never as solid. The costume I used to wear actually went higher up my neck, so I didn't have to paint it as much, usually. But I think it generally turned out pretty well. So, this is Mara, and I will finish telling you her story real quick. So she comes into Fortnite, comes into Rose Hill, technically, but meets up with the people of Fortnite. And this is where I've had a really hard time talking about her, because I really brought her in as this pure, friendly soul who just happened to raise the dead. And she even, learned how to be a third, so she could do it in a way that was wholesome and pure. But she was also really strongly attracted to any necromantic energy. She couldn't help herself. It was something that just kind of was an innate, ooh, shiny kind of situation for her, right? Sorry, I'm just kind of putting some of my makeup away while I discuss this. Oh, I forgot to put on, okay, we're gonna put on a little bit of glitter here, real quick, because that was actually how I finished this character off, is I have this fantastic black glitter that I actually got at the dollar store. And since the half Fae in Legacies tend to be kind of sparkly, or that tends to be kind of a common factor, Mara was black and glittery. So she tries really hard in the beginning. That was one of the things, as Mara, I did in the beginning of her interaction with the town. I really tried. I did. Some people don't think I did. I know that there is some common opinion among the people of Fortnite that Mara came in to be a bad guy. And that's not actually the case. At all. She turned out to be... She ended up siding with the Lich. But it was because the Lich looked at her like she was a people instead of a monster. It was the first time in her life, or at least in her time in Alba, that anyone had looked at her like she wasn't a monster. And so she sided with the Lich. And she spied on the town and fed information. And the whole time she was doing this, though, she was trying so hard to give the people of Fortnite a chance. And, she kept maybe I won't do it. And then someone would say something about how, oh, well, you're just naturally evil because you're a necromancer, or, your magic is innately wrong and you should feel bad about it, kind of thing. So there was a lot of prejudice against Mara, and she tried to get past it. But when you're constantly told you're wrong and you're evil and you're bad, and that's the expectation people put on you, eventually you're going to live up to it. And that's what Mara did. She sided with the Lich, and she was actually arrested moments before she was going to kill a very well-regarded member of the town by purposely ruining a ritual she was trying to cast. And that was how any trust in her ended. And she had done, even right up until that moment, she had done stuff to try and assist, and make things easier and make things work. But after they threw her in jail, that was it. She was done. And so the Lich actually sent someone to rescue her from the jail. They sent word that the jailers had been eaten. And she sided with Ravenna for the final battle of that particular mod. And so they went to attack the ritual that Ravenna was doing, and Mara was at her side for it. And that was... I've stood against the town a couple of times, but a lot of the times it's literally just my character doesn't agree with the town's choice of action, and it's just me trying to like say, hey, maybe we should just stab the thing, maybe we should try and figure this out. This was the first time as a character, the only time really, where I've stood fully in opposition, fully opposed to the town, and fully on the side of the other guy, the bad guy, as perceived by the town. And because of that, I've had a lot of disagreements about where Mara falls on the spectrum. I have very good friends who still tell me that Mara is evil and was evil, and I have to explain to them that she saw the Lich as a chance for people like her and the Dampari and all sorts of necromantic beings to have another option when it came to their lives, you know, to not be persecuted and not be hated. And if she had to side with the Lich to get that done, that's what she was going to do. So she was a good person. She really was. She wanted a better world. And unfortunately she made some bad choices to try and get it. And it got her killed in the end. So Mara was... I played her in opposition to the town. I've talked about her very briefly in my How I Became a Lich video. Sorry, that is another time where I stood in opposition to the players, but that was a one-off, whereas this was a number of games that I played as this character in a game that I'm really fond of with people that I know really well, and yeah, it was hard. It was emotionally pretty tough, and I still feel for Mara. You know, I still wish that things could have turned out differently for her, because she was striking. She was a very striking character to play. She was very interesting looking, and I did enjoy creating her. She had all sorts of interesting skills. She was a third, and she had necromancy. So yeah, the story was kind of meandering, but Mara, her story needed to be told. She needed to be shared with the world, and this is Mara. I used to have this big white kind of wild wig that was supposed to be... She was kind of like the white-haired Merida when it came to like her hair. She had really wild, crazy, wavy hair, and yeah. So this is Mara for the last time. Well, not for the last time. I'm going to be doing this look for another event this season, but as far as it goes for the character, she's gone now, and that's something that I still kind of feel bad about. I kind of miss her. Like I said, she was a fun character to play. She was really bright and upbeat, but really broken, and that was something that she couldn't get past. So yeah, just like, hey, guys, if you meet a necromancer and they seem really nice, maybe take that at face value and be nice to the necromancer in return, and they won't turn on you and try and sell you out to a lich. So that's all for today, guys. I'm not going to do a shout out today because I feel like this is a pretty melancholy story, and this is already a pretty long video, I suspect. I'm not sure how much I'm going to edit out. But yeah, just remember, whether you're a hero or a villain, always be excellent to each other. Bye, guys.